to be put in the garbage.
For the family of Christy Lynn Floyd, Wednesday's announcement brings them one step closer to knowing what happened to her.
On August 7, 1986, workers unloading trash at a Chesterfield County landfill in Virginia made a devastating discovery. The remains of a young woman, discarded among garbage, stripped of identity, and left without justice. She had been murdered, yet for over 3 decades, no one knew her name. Her family, meanwhile, was searching. 16-year-old Christy Lynn Floyd had vanished from her Richmond home just days earlier. Her sister Kim never gave up, putting Christy's photo on milk cartons, submitting her case to America's Most Wanted, and asking God for just one answer before her time ran out. For 34 years, no one connected the body to the missing girl. No arrests have been made. No one has been held accountable. You may not realize it, but you could help solve this case. Maybe you grew up in Richmond. Maybe you worked at the same Hardee's. Maybe you recognize a name, a face, a place. A single memory can be the thread that pulls truth to the surface. This is Christy's story. It matters, and your attention, your voice, could be the difference. Stay with us. In 1986, 16-year-old Christy Lynn Floyd was living in the 2300 block of West Grace Street in Richmond, Virginia. She was a quiet, sweet-natured teenager, known for her love of music and dance. Her family remembers her as kind, sensitive, and trusting, someone who rarely got into arguments or trouble. She played on the basketball team at Lexington High School and was working at a local Hardee's in Scott's Addition. By all accounts, she was a normal, cheerful young girl navigating adolescence in a vibrant neighborhood. Her sister, Kim Adkins, was especially close to Christy. She described their bond as more than sisterly. It was maternal. Kim felt responsible for her, protective in a way that ran deeper than most sibling relationships. That made what happened all the more devastating. According to Kim, Christy had recently met a boy while working at Hardee's. One night, she ran away with him. Kim recalls that her sister returned home the next day, but only stayed for about 30 minutes. During that short time, Kim stepped out to get food. When she came back, something was wrong. Their mother was asleep on the sofa. The back door was wide open. So was the alley door. Christy was gone. It was the last time anyone saw her alive. The family's response was immediate. Kim began looking for her sister almost instantly. Flyers were distributed. Friends were contacted. The absence, however, was absolute. No one had seen her. There were no leads, no trace. The disappearance stunned the family. In their hearts, they couldn't accept that Christy was simply gone. Kim, driven by guilt and love, refused to stop searching. The idea that her little sister, someone so full of life, could vanish without a word or witness was unthinkable. That unthinkable moment became their reality. On August 7, 1986, just days after 16-year-old Christy Lynn Floyd vanished from her home in Richmond, a grim discovery was made. Workers at the Chesterfield County landfill were unloading trash that had been brought from the School Street transfer station in Richmond when they noticed something unusual. Amid the debris, they discovered what appeared to be human remains. Law enforcement was notified immediately. The Chesterfield police responded and began a thorough search of the area. What they found were the remains of a female, partially buried among the refuse. The scene was disturbing, not just because a body had been found, but because of where it had been found. Someone had thrown a person away as if she were garbage. The forensic tools available in 1986 were limited. Without the advanced capabilities of DNA technology that would come decades later, the only hope of identifying the remains lay in physical characteristics, dental records, and matching missing persons reports. Despite efforts from investigators, the case quickly hit a wall. The young woman's name could not be determined, and the case entered the files as another unresolved homicide. Cold. Years later, Christie's sister, Kim Atkins, would learn the horrifying truth that the body discovered that day was her sister's. For Kim, the knowledge that Christie had been discarded in a landfill was unbearable. "My sister didn't deserve to be put in the garbage," she said through tears, capturing the pain and outrage that had been buried for decades along with the unanswered questions. This section underscores a cruel reality. While the Floyd family began their search for Christie, the answers they needed were already in a police report, waiting to be unlocked by technology that did not yet exist. The young girl who vanished into silence had, in fact, been found almost immediately, but for more than 30 years, she remained nameless. Her story paused in time, waiting for someone to find a way to speak for her again. For 34 years, Christie Lynn Floyd's name was missing from the file that held the remains found in the Chesterfield landfill. Her body lay unidentified, while her family held on to fading hope, clinging to the belief that one day she might come home. In those 3.5 decades, time passed, but answers never came. From the moment Christie disappeared in 1986, her sister Kim Atkins refused to accept silence. Her grief didn't settle into resignation, it transformed into action. Kim searched through every avenue available to her. She made flyers and distributed them across the city. She submitted Christie's photo and information to national programs like America's Most Wanted, hoping public exposure might bring a lead. She even had Christie's face printed on milk cartons, once a standard tactic for finding missing children in the 1980s. Kim's search became a lifelong mission. She followed up on rumors, questioned people who knew Christie, and scoured social media in later years, hoping to see a familiar face in a crowd. But with each year that passed, the uncertainty deepened. Every holiday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays, was another cruel reminder that Christie wasn't home. And still, Kim waited. As her brother Donald Floyd recalled, every Christmas and every Thanksgiving, Kim's waiting on a knock on the door from my sister. Even as the world moved on, Kim couldn't. She never gave up hope, but she carried a deep sense of guilt. She was like my child, and I feel like I failed her. That guilt lingered, not because Kim had done anything wrong, but because she had been the last family member to see Christie before she vanished. Her decision to leave the house for food that day, to step away for even a moment, became a weight she would carry for decades. During this time, the remains found in the landfill remained unidentified. Somewhere, locked in a case file or sample vial, was the truth. But there was no connection between the name and the body. For Christie's family, the wait became a life of unanswered questions, emotional limbo, and private pain. There was no grave to visit, no closure to embrace, and no explanation for why someone would take a child and leave her story unfinished. This was not a passive wait. It was a daily, deliberate fight against forgetting. Kim made sure her sister's name never faded, not from her family's memory, not from the public, and not from the system. For more than 30 decades, she did what she could with what she had, driven by love, fueled by loss. And through it all, she held on to one desperate plea: let me know what happened to her before I leave this world.
For over 3 decades, the unidentified remains discovered in the Chesterfield landfill in 1986 remained a mystery. Investigators had long believed that solving the case would require a technological breakthrough, something far beyond the forensic capabilities of the mid-1980s. That moment finally arrived between 2019 and 2020, when science and persistence intersected to give Christy Lynn Floyd her name back. Years earlier, a portion of the recovered remains had been sent to DNA Labs International in Florida. The lab succeeded in developing a DNA profile, but at the time the data could not be matched to any known individual or family in law enforcement databases. The case once again hit a standstill. Then, in 2019, the Chesterfield Police Department sought the expertise of Parabon Nanolabs, a Virginia-based company that uses advanced DNA technology, including genetic genealogy and phenotyping, to help identify unknown victims. Using DNA extracted from the remains, Parabon created what's called a snapshot composite, an estimated facial reconstruction based purely on genetics. This image predicted the woman's likely eye color, hair color, skin tone, ancestry, facial structure, and presence of freckles. In March, Chesterfield police released the snapshot to the public. Their hope was simple: that someone, somewhere, might see something familiar in the computer-generated face of a long-forgotten girl. That hope reached the right person. Retired Richmond police detective Mark Williams recognized something in the image, or perhaps something about the case itself felt familiar. He reached out to Chesterfield detective Chris Humphreys with a specific lead. A family named Adkins had reported a sister missing in the 1980s. That single statement changed everything. Detective Humphreys followed the lead and located the Adkins family. When contacted, Christy's sister and relatives responded immediately. One family member agreed to provide a voluntary DNA sample for comparison. The results were conclusive. The remains were positively identified as Christy Lynn Floyd. After 34 years of anonymity, Christy finally had her identity restored, thanks to modern forensic science, a piece of DNA, and a retired detective's memory. It was a moment that merged old-fashioned investigative instinct with cutting-edge science, bridging the gap between generations of law enforcement and families that never gave up hope. This breakthrough not only gave the Floyd family long-sought answers, but also underscored the power of persistence. It demonstrated how advancements in technology, when combined with collective memory and community participation, can finally give voice to those who have been silenced. Christy's case had remained unsolved for decades, but with this single development, the first real steps toward justice were finally taken.
After 34 years of silence, the announcement came. The remains found in the Chesterfield landfill in 1986 had been identified as 16-year-old Christy Lynn Floyd. At a press conference held by the Chesterfield police, Christy's sister Kim Atkins, her brother Donald Floyd, and other family members stood together, united in sorrow, but finally with an answer. For Kim, the news brought a complex and overwhelming mix of emotions. Relief, pain, and heartbreak arrived all at once. For decades, she had searched tirelessly, never letting go of the hope that she might one day know what happened to her sister. Now she did. But the truth was devastating. My sister didn't deserve to be put in the garbage.
she said, fighting through tears. The image of Christy, discarded in a landfill unrecognized for more than 3 decades, was unbearable. Kim also shared memories of her sister with reporters and investigators. "She was so sweet and so naive," she said. "I never ever saw her get in an argument with anybody except for me." Their bond had been close, filled with ordinary sibling moments and unspoken love. Kim's words painted a portrait of a kind and trusting girl whose life ended far too soon. Donald Floyd added that every holiday, every Christmas, every Thanksgiving was marked by Kim's silent hope that Christy would one day walk through the door. Even as the years went on, that hope never fully faded. The identification brought a measure of closure, but it also reignited a deeper pain. Knowing that Christy had been found so soon after her disappearance, yet had remained unidentified for decades, added another layer of sorrow. The family had been searching while the truth had been buried, both literally and figuratively, for all those years. As part of their ongoing investigation, Chesterfield police also released a photograph of Christy taken before her disappearance. In the photo, she is pictured with an unknown male. Authorities made it clear that this man is not considered a suspect or person of interest, but they are eager to identify and speak with him to gain more understanding about Christy's social life and last known interactions before her death. This moment in the case, the restoration of Christy's name, was a turning point. It closed one chapter of uncertainty, but opened another filled with lingering questions. The Floyd family was finally given the answer to one question: where is Christy? But the more painful question, what happened to her, remained unanswered.
While the identification of Christy Lynn Floyd brought long-awaited answers to her family, it also made one fact painfully clear: her case remains unsolved. Chesterfield police have confirmed that Christy's death was a homicide, yet more than 3 decades later, no arrests have been made and no suspects have been publicly identified. Her killer has never been held accountable. The case remains open. Investigators are continuing to examine the limited evidence they have. A photograph released by Chesterfield police shows Christy alongside an unidentified male. Authorities have been clear that this man is not a suspect or a person of interest, but they believe he could help them learn more about Christy's life, especially in the days leading up to her disappearance. Understanding who she spent time with and what her relationships were like may be key to uncovering what happened the day she vanished. This portion of the documentary acknowledges that a name has been restored, but justice has not been served. For the Floyd family, the pain didn't end with identification, it intensified. Knowing Christy was murdered and that no one has ever been held responsible only deepens their heartbreak. "She didn't deserve to be put in the garbage," Kim Adkins said. Those words now echo not only as grief, but as a call for accountability. The community, the investigators, and the family still hope that someone, somewhere, knows something: a witness, a memory, a connection to the people Christy knew. With the aid of continued media exposure, updated technology, and public awareness, answers may still be possible. This section closes by underlining a stark truth. Solving a murder begins with identifying the victim, but it cannot end there. Christy was a 16-year-old girl with a life ahead of her. That life was taken. The person who did it has not faced justice. And so, the search continues. For truth, for responsibility, and for a measure of peace that still eludes her family.
Christy Lynn Floyd was just 16 years old when her life was taken and her body discarded in a landfill. For 34 years, she remained unidentified. Her family searched tirelessly, refusing to let her memory fade. That search finally led to answers, but not to justice. Her case remains open. Anyone with information about Christie's disappearance or death is urged to contact the Chesterfield County Unsolved Major Investigations Group at 804-717-6024. Even the smallest detail could be the missing piece investigators need. Police have also released a photo of Christie with an unidentified man taken before her death. He is not considered a suspect or person of interest, but authorities believe he may have valuable information about Christie's social life and last known interactions. Identifying and speaking with him could provide critical context in understanding what happened. Christie's identity was restored because someone spoke up. If you know something, no matter how long it has been, please come forward. Her family still deserves answers. Christie still deserves justice. Your voice might be the one that helps complete her story.